if you buy it when you're young, let's just say you buy it in your 20s, it is so easy and so cheap.
You've got to go to HR.
Yeah.
And you've got to tell HR that we need to file the claim. So HR now has to coordinate.
When I hear someone say that, they're telling me that they have an unhealthy relationship with money.
We are here to dispel several very common life insurance myths. We are going back to basics today.
Right.
Finishing the year strong.
Well, we're only covering a few.
Yeah.
We've heard several hundred of these objections
But these
over
are the
our
big ones.
careers. But
These are the big ones.
Thematically, these are the biggest ones.
Yeah.
All right. So myth number 1.
Life insurance is only for the wealthy.
It's only for rich people, Brandon. Don't you know?
It is.
I don't have anything, so what matters? No, that's
we could have taken that a few different ways, but okay.
I know. That's a joke. I was trying to think back. So I've been doing this for 23 years. I don't know that I've ever run across anyone who didn't need life insurance, except for those who already had a lot and there just wasn't a reason to add more unless they just wanted to. But in terms of normal people, walking around, people who work everyday jobs, generally speaking, they have some things, pets, institutions that they care about.
Pets?
Yeah. I mean, just oddly enough. I know that seems strange to someone like you, but there are people who want to make sure that
Fluffy is taken care of.
There's a trust for Fluffy.
I know someone in particular who would be very worried about that. So, I do.
They may or may not be. Anyway, we won't get into specifics there. But yeah, I think that it kind of goes along with something we've talked about before, actually, which is a lot of people think they don't need any sort of estate planning because they don't have an estate, so to speak. And I think the problem is the word estate. Like, people think a movie where, there's a huge house behind a big gate, and they associate that with the word estate. And I think we have to think about it in a legal context. My point being, everyone, when they die, needs some sort of liquidity to handle some things for those you leave behind. I'm not saying you have to necessarily provide them with a lifetime income, though that could be an option, largely speaking. But there are reasons to have some cash on hand.
I think you're absolutely.
There's reason for the people that are left. You obviously won't do you any good, but because you're dead.
I think you're absolutely correct. And not to be all cliche and stuff, but I'll be cliche and say that
please,
the less money you have, the more important life insurance tends to be.
Yeah, that's actually true.
So, but I think to your point, the fact that most people think of expenses when you die as being a rich person's problem.
Right.
It's not.
No, it's definitely not.
The problems may get bigger as someone has more wealth.
Yeah.
But there are substantial expenses to dying that most people don't think much about.
Yep.
And these include...
And most everyone incurs them.
Yeah.
I mean, there's going to be probate costs. There's going to be other... What's the best way to put it?
Well, think about something as simple as you own a house.
Right. And
you need to sell that house. Well, your heirs need to sell that house unless they intend to take ownership of it, right. and
you're
keep it.
saying a paid for house, right? So there's no mortgage.
Correct.
Right.
Well, even if there is a mortgage,
right.
There's a process of getting the house ready to sell. And
there's a process to get it to the point where you, as the person who the house was left to, can sell it.
Yep.
Like there's a lot of pre-work that has to be done to change names on titles and all that sort of stuff.
Now, to the person who says, I don't own a house, I rent an apartment. Well, good for you. Is your stuff just going to disappear afterwards?
Yeah, they'll just move it out on the street.
That's there could be expense to that. And both you and I have now been through the experience of having somebody that's somewhat close to us pass away.
Right. Yes.
And being somewhat involved in the process of settling the estate.
Right.
And I think that we've both had experiences with people who range a bit in terms of economic achievement.
Mm-hmm.
And what you find is the ones who you didn't think really had any money, their cost of dealing with things, it's not free.
No, it's not free. And it's not simple. I mean, just think about retitling cars.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and you think, well, that's not that hard to do. Well, if you don't know what to do, it's incredibly.
Well, you don't know what to do, or you've got somebody who owns a car, excuse me, let me back up. You've got somebody who owned a car who's passed away, who doesn't live in the state that you do.
Right.
So
exactly.
what you're used to being the protocol may not be the protocol.
Right.
The way Vermont does things may differ from Massachusetts.
Right.
And that
send
causes...
in all the paperwork and nothing happens. And 3 weeks later, you're trying to figure out what's going on. And you find out, oh, well, you filled that out incorrectly, or you left this section blank, or you signed that, but that needs to be notarized. I mean, and that can go on and round. And you just completely wasted all sorts of time trying to untangle that.
It became a joke between my wife and I. So there was a family member who passed away almost 2 years ago who lived in Massachusetts. And as her parents,
deeply personal for you.
As her parents were trying to settle all of this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
they would often get very frustrated with the way things worked in Massachusetts. So they had this Massachusetts law thing going on. So the joke between my wife and I, whenever something was going on that we didn't like or understand, it for a while was Massachusetts law was the answer. So, but these are real things. True. These are real things that people have to struggle with, and they become an expense to you.
And having money to deal with those makes things easier.
Now,
from a processing standpoint,
you and I are going off on our caviar tangent here to talk about things like estate settling, but it can be much more simple than that.
Mm-hmm.
If you are married or in a committed relationship or have children, and you're not a particularly high income earner, you don't have a lot of assets saved, but you are caring for somebody, like what income you earn does contribute to their life and their livelihood. If you were to pass away, that goes away.
Yep.
And you may look at this as, well, life isn't great already. It's not like we have tons of things, but you'll have even fewer things, or they will have even fewer things if your income also goes away. Right.
Yep. Absolutely. And I've seen very simple things in families. If you think about sort of a normal average family, I'm sure in their minds they're way above average, but I just mean in terms of their financial wherewithal, their income. We'll use a Vermont example. They got a camp, right? Which for those of the uninitiated, a camp in the Northeast just means you got a shack in the woods somewhere.
That can range quite considerably in terms of what it actually is. But yes.
You could have a Bernie Sanders camp.
Yeah.
Or you could have normal person camp, which most people would look at and go, you stay in there? But anyway, parents, pass away and leave the camp to the kids, right? Well, there's still property taxes that have to be paid. There are, there may be road maintenance. There are various things that have to happen. Well, that doesn't mean that family was rich, right? Because it's probably been in their family for 50 years or something, and grandpa paid peanuts for it back in the 50s or whatever. But there's still maintenance work. There's still costs associated with owning that piece of property. And the parents are like, we want the kids to be able to have it. Well, guess what? The kids are going to need some money.
Mm-hmm.
So life insurance will allow you to make sure that your heirs, your beneficiaries, whomever, can keep the things that are important to you and your family. I know this is a very hokey example, but that's the sort of thing that happens all the time. Parents will be like, well, I don't want you to sell this when I'm gone. Kids are like, well, Mom, I don't have tons of money, and I don't know how I'm going to keep that. So
it's hokey right up until the moment that it becomes your reality.
Right.
And that's when you stop and take stock of it and go, oh,
right.
I mean, it feels a little weird. Like, life imitating art almost. Like everybody has that moment when they stop and realize, oh my, I'm living a sitcom right now.
Right.
But it does happen.
Mm-hmm.
And we can look at these examples that life insurance agents use to strong arm people into buying life insurance. But when you actually go through that experience, you realize there's a point to this.
Yeah. And even if we're going to stop beating this one point here in a second, even if you are a person of some means or considerable means and have cash, let's just say savings account money, money market money, checking account money, whatever, that your heirs will inherit. Even if you have that, there's this weird, us both having gone through lots of personal experiences and helping other people out. There's this weird period between when someone dies and when, even if you're legally bequeathed all of these things and it's documented, there's a weird in-between period.
Yep.
Where nothing seems to be happening.
Yeah.
Even after you've initiated the process of doing all this stuff, it doesn't happen overnight. So, and I've seen this happen. Like someone inherits property, real estate. Well, the real estate's not free. It still has. There's still costs associated with keeping it inhabitable, or the maintenance costs and this and that and the other. My point being, typically life insurance, once you get the death certificate and you file a claim, it's very quick. You're going to get the money. And so that provides liquidity, and it's not part of the probate process because it just goes directly to the beneficiary. So that gives them the ability to support the probate process for all the other stuff. That's just something people don't think about a lot.
Nope, you don't.
You do have to, the catch is, of course, you still have to have their death certificate, which timelines on that can vary from locality to locality, but
yeah.
All right. Myth number 2.
It's too expensive.
Life insurance is just too expensive.
Much like the rent,
I don't really
it's too damn
understand that
high.
argument. The rent I can understand. The life insurance is too expensive. I never, look, early in my career, I think I've told you this story. I had a friend who I was trying to sell life insurance to, because back in those days, that's what you did. And I was having lunch with him, and I think I showed him something like, it was a term insurance policy. And because he was a very young guy, didn't have a lot of money, young family. And I think it was like $150,000 or $200,000 of death benefit. It wasn't huge. It was enough. This is quaint, right? It was enough to pay off his mortgage back in those days. I know, that's funny, right? You can't buy a camp for $150,000 now. So the premium, I believe, is like $12 a month, something like that. And at the end of my dog and pony show, he said, well, I'm going to have to think about it. I need to talk to my wife about that first. And I couldn't help myself. Like, I was still pretty new, but I looked at him and I was like, it's $12. You just spent $15 on lunch. Like,
wait, you didn't spend $15 on lunch for him?
Actually, I just spent $35 on lunch. So based on the amount of money I would make from the $12 premium, in like 4 years, I may recoup 80% of what I just spent. So
yeah. The versatility of life insurance in terms of the offerings.
Yeah.
This one doesn't make any sense.
No.
There are so many different choices.
Right.
Someone has at their disposal.
Sure.
To create death benefit.
Right. Yeah. If you're looking to overfund a cash value life insurance policy for the growth of cash value, that's an entirely different discussion. And that has nothing to do with expense. That's how much money do you want to spend? How much money do you want to put into the policy every year? That's an entirely different discussion.
Right. I think one of the subtle arguments that comes out of this one is the need to compromise that people aren't necessarily on board with at the beginning, which is to say, because I can remember having these conversations with people years ago kind of in the early years of my illustrious insurance career,
Mm.
where we would
Started
talk
with a
about
bang, I know.
we would talk about the different forms of life insurance.
Mm-hmm.
So term life insurance, whole life insurance, universal life insurance. And in general, when you have that conversation, you kind of lump everything that's cash value life insurance together, and then there's term insurance.
Right.
And what happens in a lot of cases is people fall in love with the concept of whole life insurance.
Yes.
But when they find out what the premium for the $1 million death benefit they're seeking is going to be, there's a little bit of a pause
Mm-hmm.
in terms of the sticker shock.
Yeah.
So then
Well,
you talk about
this premium is $15,000 a year.
Yeah.
Or you can get $1 million worth of 20-year term for $437 a year.
Yeah, exactly. So you talk about term insurance, but the one sticking point for a lot of people on term insurance is it's temporary.
It's
So there's
renting
this-
versus buying, Brandon.
So there's this
I
whole,
know you love that one.
I don't want to pay those premiums and get nothing.
Yeah. Yep.
And I'm always like, well, I mean, the alternative is you're dead. So maybe.
If you're alive, I think you got something.
Right.
That's
So, like, look, you have a need for life insurance.
mm-hmm.
And in an ideal world, you would have whole life insurance, let's say, where you have cash value and dividends and it never goes away and everything's great. And that's awesome. But you don't have the money to buy whole life insurance right now.
Right.
So, I mean, what's more important? Buying a product that guarantees it'll be around forever, builds cash value, and pays dividends at a price you can't afford,
Sure.
or having death benefit in place.
Right.
So, yeah, I get it. You like the concept of
Mhm.
whole life insurance. You'd like to have that, but term insurance is really your vehicle right now.
Yes. Yes.
So,
And if you want whole life insurance, focus your efforts on how do I get myself into a position where I have the
Right.
budget to
Right.
buy that? Because I really like
Right.
that.
exactly.
But it'll still
So-
be there. It's not going anywhere. So,
You know, life insurance is not exclusive. There's lots of situations people get into where they say, I want to do this and I want to do that, but you can only take 3 of the 5 things that you're really targeting,
right.
because that's all you can reasonably feasibly do at this point.
Yep.
Life insurance falls into the same category. Sometimes you just got to buy term insurance.
Yeah.
And term insurance is cheap.
Mm-hmm. And it'll give you
Um,
great peace of mind knowing you've taken care of that.
Yes.
So-
Plus, we're at a place where there's so much ability to go out to the marketplace and see what's available.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to take term insurance from the first company that shows up knocking at the door.
Right.
So you may discover that comparing does save money, saves considerable money
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to term insurance.
Yep.
So it's totally a way to accommodate budget.
Yep.
Or there is a way to accommodate budget.
Yep. All right. Number
Myth-
3.
Number 3,
Yeah.
it's only for the old people.
That's such a weird one to me.
I figure you being our resident boomer, we'll just let you talk for 10 minutes and I'll just sit here.
You're just picking at that scab, aren't you? For those of you who don't know, I'm not a boomer. I know I have a lot of white hair. I'm a square. I'm solid Gen X. But to kids, I would say anyone from, 14, 15 to 25, everyone who's older than them is a boomer. So,
Yeah.
which is interesting. And I'm always like, when they call me boomer, I'm like, that's your grandparents. You shouldn't talk about your grandparents that way. Your grandparents are solidly baby boomers. I am not. So, yeah. Disrespect. The Gen X always just gets the short end of the stick. Everyone talks about boomers and millennials.
I know.
Like, there's a lot that happened in between the two.
There is. There is.
Anyway,
So,
we just created
know-
the best music on the history of the earth. But other than that, not me personally, by the way,
Yeah.
but
so,
older people. I don't.
yeah, older people. There's a number of people, and again, going back to the early years of the insurance career, I'm sure you faced this too. You'd make this stunningly perfect presentation,
Mhm.
like one of those
Oh, yeah.
moments where you say it and you think, did that come out of my mouth? Can somebody record that?
All the time I spent with those cards,
And
memorizing that script really paid off.
this person sitting across the kitchen table from you says, yeah, but you know what? I think I'm going to wait till I'm older, because then the chances that I'm going to need the life insurance are going to go up at that point.
Right.
And I remember thinking to myself back then, I wonder if anybody at the insurance companies thought of that.
Never. Well, a good example would be that's why that example I gave a few minutes ago, talking about the 20-year term policy, it's $1 million death benefit, $437 a year for the 27-year-old who's in perfect health.
Yeah.
Costs the exact same policy on the same person when they're 47 will be
3 times that.
I was going to say add a 1 in front of that 4 probably.
Yep.
If they can even qualify for the highest risk class, which is very difficult to do for term insurance at most companies. Yeah. It doesn't, I mean, this is akin to me to saying like, I'll buy a homeowner's policy when the smoke starts coming out of the roof.
Right.
I mean, what are you talking about? That's not how you tell me you don't understand insurance. Like,
Without
I don't mean life
you
insurance.
don't understand
just
insurance.
The word insurance, the concept of insurance. It doesn't make any sense. Of course, it gets outrageously expensive as you get older, depending on, what you want to do and what your health situation is. We've seen some premiums that make your eyes water.
Yeah, at the same time, we just had the previous myth saying it's not expensive, by the way.
Well, it's not, it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
That's the key.
When you're younger, you have a lot more options at your disposal.
Yes.
Like, you will get to a point where you're too old to buy term insurance.
Yes, that's true.
And the
you also get to a point where, let's say you send a proposal out to 10 different insurance companies and 8 of them say, no thanks.
Well, that's exactly where I was going to go with this, is the fact that over time, your options can become more limited.
Yeah.
Because health changes. Maybe you adopt some sort of habit that takes you out of kind of desirable insurability. These are things that will absolutely wear on you over time. And so saying that you're going to wait because you think it's better to buy it when you're more likely to be a claim. The insurance industry is well aware of this possibility.
Sure.
And it has priced products appropriately.
Yeah.
So the other thing that a lot of people overlook is the fact that if you decide, hey, I think I'm young, I don't plan on dying anytime soon.
I love that phrase.
Nobody does.
Right.
Nobody does. And believe you me, every life insurance agent on the face of the earth has heard, I don't plan on dying anytime soon.
Oh, yeah.
All of us. So
I've heard all the responses. I can't do that tonight. I got to go to Cracker Barrel. Or
I've never heard that one, but the closest Cracker Barrel to me is probably an hour and a half away. So
Dunkin'. I got to go to Dunkin'.
The other thing that I'm willing to bet, because I've definitely attended a handful of funerals where somebody died at a pretty young age.
Mm-hmm.
None of those people planned on dying anytime soon either.
Nope. Yeah, I've had several friends who died very young, before their 25th birthday, and there was no plan. There was, and even worse, in the instances I'm thinking about, there was no long-term illness or anything like that. It was accidental. So
yeah. I've met some I've seen some situations where people who you wouldn't really be that surprised based on age weren't planning on dying anytime soon either.
Yeah. I have a very basic sort of thing that I want to communicate with people, which is if you buy it when you're young, let's just say you buy it in your 20s, when you're sort of out on your own and paying your own way in the world. It is so easy and so cheap. I mean, it's not a painful process. In most cases, with most companies nowadays, you're not even going to have to do a paramedical exam and get blood and urine and all that sort of stuff done. Unless, I mean, there are outliers and people that have significant health issues and they're going to want medical records and all that sort of stuff. But the vast majority of people who are young and healthy and don't have inches worth of medical history, they're going to breeze right through underwriting pretty quickly. And it's just so much easier because you don't have all of the insurance company is pretty sure you're not going to die anytime soon. So, it's just too easy to do when you're younger. You get older, you have more unexpected things that come along. They got a lot more questions for you about all sorts of various things. I don't know. It's just, from a practical standpoint, I promise you, because I bought it when I was young and I bought it when I was older. There's a difference.
That's an excellent point because it's overlooked.
Yeah.
The process of getting it, especially at a young age, is, for the most part, fantastically simple now.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I know it sounds like a sales tactic to say that because that's, there's all sorts of stuff that used to try to pressure young people into buying life insurance. I'm just approaching it from a practical standpoint.
Myth number 4.
I got insurance at work, Brandon.
Speaking of things that are simple to get.
Yeah, I got life insurance at work.
My employer coverage is enough.
They just gave it to me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, as a perk for employment, it's understandable that
it's basically
trying
free.
to offer
it's basically
fringe
free
benefits
for the company.
Yeah.
I mean,
fringe benefits. This is a great way to give something to each employee. But it does have a tendency to lull people into a false sense of security.
Yep.
One, there's a lot of people who don't understand exactly what they have for coverage.
Yep.
So they assume they have one benefit amount, but it turns out in reality they only have something else.
Right.
And generally speaking, employer group health insurance, group term life insurance is only going to cover a couple times your income at best.
That's if you choose to buy up.
Yeah.
Most out of the gate is just 1 times your salary,
which is woefully inadequate for most people's circumstances.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
General rule of thumb is 10 times your annual salary is probably in the neighborhood of right for most people.
Yep.
So that's a number that is virtually impossible to get to with most group employer plans.
Right. Right. And one of the bigger issues is people change jobs all the time, and you don't get to take it with you. Now, many of them have an option where you can, but it's stupid expensive. Like, you'd be way better off going and buying a term policy for yourself than carrying an employer's plan with you, unless you just don't have the choice. But they're crazy expensive to do that. But the bigger issue is it's not even that. It's that people forget. They change jobs and they just forget.
Yep.
Or they leave a job.
And I can't imagine there's anyone out there saying, I hate this job and I would leave tomorrow, but man, that life insurance benefit, I can't be without that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's probably not holding their feet to the fire. But it is not enough.
Right.
It is not. And
I will say, this is completely anecdotal. I'm not making any claims about any particular companies here. The only issues I've ever seen with getting a death claim processed came from group. I've never witnessed a policy bought as an individual, someone getting hassled and I don't mean they were hassled in that they tried to deny the claim. It just got held up. It just took a long time for them to get the money.
Yep.
And group life insurance is the only one that I have. And that could just be coincidence. I really don't know.
There's a lot more hands in the process when it comes to filing a group plan.
Right.
So unlike traditional life insurance that you own individually, where your beneficiary is going to reach out to the insurance company, they're going to ask for a death certificate and then send money. You've got to go to HR.
Yeah.
And you've got to tell HR that we need to file the claim. So HR now has to coordinate with the insurance company on the claims process.
Right.
So now you're going to have to usher paperwork between you, the beneficiary, to HR, who then generally gets it to the insurance company.
Right.
To review and process the claim.
Yep.
And then the money will come directly to you, but you're adding extra layers in there, which will generally slow the process down.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have, from experience, totally seen individually owned life insurance policies pay claims way faster.
Yeah.
than group claims.
Yeah, I agree. I've seen them paid, individually owned policies paid in the time that it took just to figure out what you had to do to submit a claim on a group policy and get everything together.
Yep.
All right. Number 5.
You want to talk about? It's complicated.
It's so complicated.
It's just so complicated. I don't think it's complicated. I think it's just not something people do all that often. It's also something that they don't enjoy doing. I don't know if you ever had this experience.
We can empathize with that.
I don't know. I don't know if you had this experience, but talking about dying is an uncomfortable subject for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so for like the first 6 months I was in the life insurance industry, I had every euphemism for dying like locked in.
Kick the bucket.
Well, it wasn't even that direct. I mean, the amount of time I spent skirting around the subject to try. I mean, people were just life insurance because everyone's confused. What is he talking about?
Please tell me you said crossing over. When you cross over the Rainbow Bridge. Sorry.
I thought that was for animals, but anyway.
Hey, we got to take care of our pets, okay?
Yes. So it's not a fun subject,
right?
And so, admittedly, you can't pop on down to the Kroger and stop next to the life insurance shop at the same strip mall and pick up your policy. They
tried that at Walmart, didn't they?
They did. They did. The
Anyway.
MetLife in the life insurance vending machine. That's right too. That's a deep cut from the financial procast days.
That's back when MetLife sold life insurance.
Yeah. So the complexity of it is it's new. It's different, right? It's not as commonplace as is buying groceries or ordering something on Amazon, though I'm sure Amazon's working on something in the life insurance world. Why not? So that makes it a little different. And there is an underwriting process most of the time, which has been streamlined significantly in the past
5 years.
half decade.
Yeah.
So that part is a little unique. But the actual process of buying life insurance, I mean, you and I have talked on numerous occasions. Our life 5+ years ago versus the last 5 years has gotten, for the most part, a bit easier.
Yeah.
And so
in theory,
we don't deal
it should
with
be way easier, but yeah.
Yeah, we don't deal with near as much complication in the application process.
We don't deal with as much underwriting complication.
Right.
There's still plenty of other complications that have nothing to do with the actual underwriting, but yeah.
But the time and process to get an approval has sped up immensely.
Right. Yes.
Immensely. And it's not just term insurance that this is true for. There are certainly cases that we have worked on where people are applied, approved, and issued in a couple of days.
Yeah.
We wish it went that way all the time. It doesn't. But the process and kind of retouching on some of these former myths for younger people in general is spectacular.
Right.
So understood, some of the intimidation of life insurance can just be there's different types and there's terminology that I don't understand. And that's what people like you and I exist to deal with.
I was going to say, let's give ourselves a shameless plug here. This is why you have to work with an agent, advisor, whatever you want to call them, who understands this and whom you trust, because you're just as you would go out and see a physician or hire an engineer to, like I want to put an addition on my house, but I got to make sure this whole thing isn't going to fall in on itself. You're trusting those people that they know what they're doing, and that they're telling you the right thing to do. And that's where people like us come in. It can seem complicated. It's not complicated to us because we do it every day.
Right.
It'd be very complicated for me to try to figure out, I want to put a new ridge beam in here. What kind of, I got to do the calculation on the span and the weight distribution and the pitch of the roof and all those sorts of things. No, I don't I'm not going to do
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
I've got to hire someone that I trust to do those calculations, draw it for me so that I can do it. I just think about it the same way. The trust factor, I understand that's the X factor in the equation. But
It's tough, and it's an intangible object, so it's hard to figure out
yeah,
exactly how correct the person you're talking to is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So like again, if you put a new roof line in and 6 months later the roof is sagging, perhaps they miscalculated some things.
Yeah.
You can tell kind of quickly.
Yep.
Life insurance, you don't necessarily have that feedback loop.
Right.
And that makes things a little trickier.
Right. But to go back to an earlier point, if we're talking about keeping costs down and you're just buying term insurance, it's not complicated.
No.
There's literally no complication.
And if you're trying to figure out the other stuff, the complicated or
Right.
slightly more complicated cash value stuff, there's this really great website, been around for a long time. It's called theinsuranceproblog.com. Check that out. Check their YouTube channel out. I hear it's new and doing great things. And stellar podcast from what I'm told.
People seem to like it.
Yep.
Much to our surprise. All right, let's wrap it up. Number 6. Life insurance is only about money.
Well, I guess you took a heartwarming subject and just decided to make it about the dollars and cents.
That's right. I'm going to drop the mic on this.
This one falls also into it's just legalized gambling.
I've never heard that one before.
Oh, come on. I was going to say that's something else insurance agents have all heard. Maybe not.
I don't think I've ever heard that one. But please explain, elaborate.
I mean, gambling's legal, so I'm not really sure what they're talking about. I guess it's the idea that insurance companies are just placing bets on people dying or not dying. Life insurance is about
That's what
the
they do
money.
in the boardroom. They get the dice out.
Yep. Yahtzee. Life insurance is about money, but money is about a lot more than most people realize. I personally own life insurance because there are people that I care about, and I need to make sure that there is a way for them to continue to live their lives if I'm not here.
Right. That's pretty simple.
There's not much else to say.
Right.
Beyond that fact.
Money's just a tool. Like, it's interesting when you hear people make statements like this. It's only about money, and that's a common phrase we hear all the time. And I'm like, I don't understand. When I hear someone say that, they're telling me that they have an unhealthy relationship with money.
Yeah.
Without telling me. Like, if that's your mentality and that's how you think about things, you can only process it in the most cynical way. Then you have an unhealthy relationship with money. I don't know what it is. I don't know what trauma from your past has done that. But money is a tool. It's a means to an end. And it allows in the context of you dying and leaving money for your beneficiaries, your spouse, your kids, your whatever, it gives them choices.
Yep.
That's all it does. It doesn't replace you. You're gone. You're dead. And I guess that could go either way. They could be distraught or not.
Well, speaking of that, we should do the other one that you have totally heard as an insurance agent, which is, well, I don't want my wife running off with some guy with all this money.
She's going to do that anyway, so you might as well.
I mean, if that's your relationship, you got other things to address here.
Yeah. I had a friend say that to me one time, and I was like, "What do you care? You're dead." I mean, what thoughts do you think you're going to have about the situation at the time? And and hey, that $150,000 death benefit, they're not going to have that much fun for that long. So,
well, if that's your thought process on the whole situation, why are you together?
Right. Yeah. That begs the question.
But I mean, yes.
Come for the insurance content, get free marital advice.
Yeah.
It's exactly what everyone wanted, Brandon.
Yeah. I know. But it's about money, yes, but it's about so much more, because money is about so much more than that.
Sure.
Like, there are things that you will absolutely need in life, and money is the gate to get there.
And until we figure out something better, that's what we got.
That's just the circumstance we call #adulting.
Right. Right.
So I guess this is an attempt to demean the circumstances. It's sort of it's a false flag,
Yep.
right? It's an effort to make an argument because you don't have a really substantial case. So
Right.
we're just going to throw something out there that maybe sounds.
In other words,
kinda
this
good.
is a thing I don't want to do. So
Yeah.
let me find all sorts of distracting reasons to talk about. And then we'll get away from, even if we're arguing about it, that's good because I'm not doing it. So
it's about money.
Yeah.
But that's a good thing.
Mhm.
It's not a bad thing.
Yep.
Okay.
It is. It's good. It will allow the people you care about to have options in the future. One of the things that I always think about, and I think it's relevant, and I saw it happen as a kid. Someone's father would die.
Okay.
When, the kids were pretty young. And pretty quickly the mother got remarried.
Okay.
And the mother got remarried to a guy who wasn't near as awesome as their dad. Like, and as a kid, you don't really process any of that stuff. You don't care about any of that. You're just going over to play or whatever. But as an adult, you look back and go, why did Mrs. Jones marry that guy? He was such a jerk, and you realize the practicality of it was that she needed to, she had to.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't have a means to support the kids, and so she married a jerk. So I used to tell
It was
people
about the money.
It became about the money pretty quick when you don't have any.
Mm-hmm.
So
Sad, but these circumstances do come
Yeah.
up, and life insurance is a primary tool to avoid them.
yes, it is.
So there you have it. A lot of these myths are really false flags in themselves.
Yeah.
They are efforts to say, I don't want to do this for whatever reason. Maybe it's because I don't feel like I can afford it. Maybe it's because I don't really have a healthy relationship with money. Maybe it's because I don't have a healthy relationship with the people in my life, and I'm not.
Absolutely.
I just don't care about them.
Right. Which I'd much
Yeah,
rather,
that's all
I'd
fun.
always much rather people just tell me, hey, I just don't care. Okay.
That's all fun.
We can end the conversation.
But these are not legitimate reasons
No.
to not buy life insurance.
No.
They're not.
It's way too easy and way too inexpensive, and has too many good things going for it.
I think that's good for today. We'll see you next time.